tick, tick, tick on the wall. Maybe you could have it all. Get down on your knees and pray. Maybe she will let you stay. Good enough if you play the game. Here comes the music, don't resist. Gotta keep on moving. Here comes the music, just give in. Gotta keep on moving.
Nice. Okay.
That one hurt my ears.
Excellent. Welcome everybody.
Clapped too good.
Welcome everybody to A Court of Bros and Broses. This is a show where we sing songs about romantasy titles that we're excited about right now. No, it's not.
Singing songs? Oh my gosh, I didn't prepare anything.
I got a little sing-songy at the beginning, so I just had my idea. But no, I am just coming off a cold. I am unfortunately in no position to be singing to you. But my name's Nirav, and I'm your host, and this is a journey of three straight men on a maiden voyage through Sarah J. Maas's Court of Thorns and Roses. And I'm joined by my co-host, Patrick.
Hello.
And Ian.
Hey, y'all.
And so today we are going to be revisiting Book 2, which I think is interesting because we haven't had like that much of a removal from this one, Patrick and I, as the first book, just as far as time goes. But I'm pretty interested to like to see what I guess what you think, but also like I don't know what we think about this book because like we're only removed from finishing it by like what a few months or something. So
A few months. I mean, it's also, but it's been so long since we've read book 3 at this point.
Yeah, that's true. You're right.
Yeah, but it is still a lot fresher in our minds than book 1 was. But I am still very curious to hear Ian's thoughts. In contrast to book 1 thoughts. Also, again in contrast to our opinions, he read the book in how fast did it take you to finish book 2?
I think it was like 10 days.
10 days.
Thereabouts.
That is at least 10 to 20 times faster than it took us to finish.
Yeah, so we
Book
did
2.
that over the course of, I want to say, like 10 to 11 months or something like that.
Insane.
Jesus.
Yeah.
And somehow
so,
we still liked it, though. The pacing actually, like, even just despite that sluggish pacing, we still enjoyed it.
I agree.
Not to spoil our opinions on it, but...
No, yeah, and actually one thing I wanted to bring up, which Lindsay had brought up, she had told me, like, after listening to our last episode about, like, going back into book 1, she thought it was interesting and refreshing to have Ian there because she was like, well, he reads the books, he's, like, read that book more the way I did, where he just, like, he didn't, like, stop and, like, overanalyze every portion of it, and I, like, kind of liked his opinion on these things because, like, she was pointing to me specifically, and she was, like, accusingly pointing at me, like, you, Nirav. But, like, you know, a lot of times I've said things like, oh, well, I knew this was going to happen, and then it'll happen, and she'd be like, well, how did you know that? I'm like, well, that's how stories work. Like, it's not really a narrative if you don't do that, you know? And stuff like that. And she was like, but I like how Ian just sort of, like, absorbed it the same way that I did, which, like, I did over, like, 2 or 3 days, which I think probably most of our listeners would have done as well.
Rachel also comments that because we asked Ian about the riddle, the famed riddle.
Yeah, the riddle thing, yeah.
And how previously we're like, well, obviously it's love, and then Ian was like, I didn't think about it. Rachel also commented that Ian is a passenger princess, similar to what she is, and that she's just along for the ride, not stop and analyze everything. And I was like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. But
I didn't really have the time to analyze everything with my
tight
deadline to turn these books around.
Yeah, you were just crunching through it.
Look,
I'm very, very curious to see how that's going to change with book 3 because you're going to be forced to read it at our snail pace.
Yeah.
Well, the way that we read this book is like I'm reminded of this there's an episode of The Office where Michael says that he is halfway through The Devil Wears Prada, which he has been watching in his office in 15 to 20 minute increments every few days. And so I think that's pretty much like what we've been doing.
I guess equivalently, yes, that is kind of what we've been doing, like percentage wise.
Yeah.
That's probably what.
But now that we've talked about book 2, we pretty much can talk about almost anything we want. Thankfully, like we only have a little bit of stuff from book 3 to be careful about not spoiling. But like now you know all the characters specifically, which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know kind of what the setup going into like
Right.
you. Let's quit beating around the bush a little bit. Ian, what'd you think about book 2?
I really enjoyed it. Especially once it got to the second half and it actually started like moving forward, or the second part. Once she joined the Night Court, I thought it was very enjoyable. It was like there seemed to be, even more so than the first book, or in comparison to the first book, there were like actual goals and objectives that we like
Whoa.
as a reader knew what they were.
Yes.
For the characters, and so it like gave it a good forward momentum where we knew what they were trying to do and what like the story was building to. So I thought that was very fun. It was a little bit more of like a traditional fantasy romp, it felt like, through this world. Like yeah, I really enjoyed it. There were definitely some things I didn't like about it, or yeah, definitely some things I didn't like about it, but overall I thought it was good, and I'm definitely excited for the third book. I think changing the pace to do the every week or a couple chapters each couple weeks is going to be quite a change from how I have been reading the series so far.
So I do, without like feeding you ideas or anything, I do want to ask, like, what were the things that you didn't like as much about this book?
Some of the big things I didn't like, before the reveal at the end with the king, and we learned that Tamlin betrayed the whole island to the king, I felt like his trauma was villainized, while Feyre's trauma was sort of like seen in a more, not positive light, but more accepted. And I felt like, while I understand that their individual traumas drove them apart, it felt like it was constantly being, Tamlin was constantly being villainized for going through things that Feyre was not being villainized for going through. And I found that annoying.
Elaborate on
What did you say?
Because Tamlin had the whole issues with trying to protect Feyre after she was killed in front of him, which is obviously a traumatic event. And while Feyre had all the trauma of going through being tortured and like all the under the mountain stuff, it was shown as, I felt like it was shown as a reader or as like an author, we were expected to treat Tamlin poorly for processing his trauma in the way he did, but not treat Feyre poorly or think of Feyre poorly for processing her trauma in the way she did. And
there was a huge difference in how they're, and so the way Tamlin was processing his trauma, though, if you can call it that, is he was controlling someone else.
Yes.
So it'd be different if he was processing his trauma internally in his room, holding himself up or whatever. But the way he was processing his trauma was oppressing Feyre, who had her own trauma to deal with. So it's not like the way he was processing his trauma was like an independent thing. He was processing a trauma in a very toxic way that was affecting the other people around him.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Yeah, I think that if, like, it does seem to be that, like, because I will say, and we did talk about this, like, as much as, like, we have shit on Tamlin and do not like him, like, I think we all kind of agreed at the end of the second book, like, the turn that he takes to, like, betray, like, the whole kingdom and everything to Hybern, like, kind of, like, caught us off guard, and, like, at the same time almost didn't feel like it was, like, led up to enough for him to do something like that.
I think I was the sole
go
person of the three of us who bought that heel turn, only because trying to put myself in the headspace of the character that they are creating, of who Tamlin is. You're building. We see Tamlin in the beginning of the book, and then Feyre leaves, and then for like the remainder, like 80% of the book, we don't see Tamlin at all. All we get is like little bits and pieces. I think at the end of the book we get like a little bit of who he is, and he seems like he's been basically driven insane by like he's driven himself to madness, where he has convinced himself that Feyre's been taken against her will. She has been like kidnapped, brainwashed, whatever else he thinks has happened. So if I put myself in the headspace of, okay, Tamlin is basically gone crazy, and he loves Feyre, obviously, and he still has the tendency to need to protect her, and like this is who she like. Putting myself in that headspace of like that kind of crazy Tamlin, his action at the end of the book don't necessarily seem that outrageous. I mean, they're still like pretty nuts as a heel. Like obviously it's nuts, but like I buy it at least. I don't know. Like, I guess Ian, what was your reaction to the end of the book with Tamlin's heel turn?
I would agree that I was surprised that he was involved. I didn't expect him to be involved. Especially
neither did I. Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, we don't really get anything from him for 80% of the book. After she leaves for the Night Court, we really don't hear or see anything about Tamlin until the end. I agree also that it's believable that he's made himself go crazy, he's lost his grip, and that he would do something that drastic and, from our point of view, stupid or evil to achieve what he thinks is right. And I also think the fact that as things are developing in the courtroom scene, he's unsure, changing his mind, or going against the king, sells that like he had a very one-track, very narrow view of what he was trying to achieve and the lengths he would go to it, and seeing some of the consequences of his actions shook him in his belief of whether or not he made the right decision to an extent. You can sort of see him, especially as like Nesta and Elaine are being turned, you can see that he's upset with that and tries to fight back. So I think that was believable.
Yeah, I think when you frame it through that, I think I guess I buy it more when you talk about how narrow-minded of a person he is, because I think you're right. I think he had a very one-track mind about like, this is my goal, and like regardless of the other information that came to him over that time, he was just like, I have to get Feyre back. Like he wasn't even thinking about like, do I have to get Feyre back?
I think that's a pretty good description of him as a character. It seems that like he thinks his way is the only way.
So you had talked about earlier about like kind of Feyre and Tamlin next to each other processing their trauma in different ways. But one thing we had talked about a lot when we were reading through the second book was that Rhys and Tamlin are pretty obvious kind of foils for each other. Like they both came from like abusive, frankly evil fathers that raised them the wrong way, and one of them is falling back into the habits of his father because it's the only thing he knows, and the other one, Rhys, is trying to be as unlike his father as possible as he's getting older. And like you can see that the two of them are kind of clearly framed against each other in that way. Actually, we joked a lot that they were like Naruto and Sasuke, and they had a big fight on a lake at some point, I think. But
of course.
Yeah, so I think that's the idea, and I do think that we have said this ourselves, like, and especially even after finishing book 2, like, I don't think Tamlin's like irredeemable or anything, though I am worried that like whatever redemption we get for him is not going to be satisfactory. That was my worry. I don't know.
On the subject of the trauma again, I'm kind of curious from your point of view, Ian, like how do you think the trauma could have been framed differently? I'm trying to think how to word this, because like keep in mind too, the book is written by a woman, and the book is from the point of view of a woman. So I think like, I think it is written in such a way that I understand the perspective that it's coming from, and I do not like necessarily question it. I hadn't thought of like questioning the framing of their traumas. And I'm curious from your point of view, like, do you think Tamlin's trauma could have been like if the events played out exactly how they did, could the trauma have been framed differently, or do you think it's
maybe,
just do you,
maybe do you think that it would it would have made everything more believable and make more sense if we had spent time with Tamlin over at the Spring Court for little bits during the second book and like seen how he was dealing with stuff or whatever? I don't know. Maybe that's.
I feel like, to answer that second question, I kind of like that we didn't. I like that Tamlin sort of became like this boogeyman. And like just a plot device that pushed Feyre out of the Spring Court into the Night Court, where the story actually develops. I think my issue is that, especially again using Rysand as a foil for Tamlin, it feels like I don't feel like the revelations about Rysand, whatever.
I think
Reese
Rachel commented she was in favor of the Rysand pronunciation because that's when she read the books. So
yeah,
and I know that we have seen other listeners write in about that like early on when we were talking about him in the first book. So whatever you want to pronounce it as, we're just going with not even Jennifer anymore. Who's the new narrator?
I don't remember.
Abigail something. It doesn't matter. Anyway, go on.
I don't feel like the revelations we got about him negated his treatment of Feyre in the first book, and I feel like that was overlooked to an extent because he became the true love interest, and I feel like because they wanted to move us away from Tamlin to Rysand, the things Tamlin did became worse in order to push us in that direction as well.
Maybe it's just my bias against Tamlin, but it's hard for me to see anything that Tamlin did as anything other than the most toxic, shitty stuff imaginable.
Yeah,
I mean,
like,
they're
I think
definitely.
the thing, I would say, like, because a lot of the way he acted was like trying to like take away Feyre's agency in certain places, and like, I mean, of course, you see what happens when he like locks her in the house and everything, and like, that's like a serious deal, and of course it's, especially for her, somebody who's been through being locked in like a literal prison for months preceding that, like, and I don't know, like, I will say, like, I don't think Tamlin is evil, but I do think that he has made poor judgments and poor responses and decisions to basically every situation that's come in front of him. And that's kind of, I think, the issue.
And I want to be clear. I don't think that the way Tamlin treated Feyre was okay. I also don't think that Tamlin is a good person. Was an asshole the entire book. I just feel like the treatment of their trauma, because yes, he was doing terrible things to her, but I feel like it was treated in a way that
cut out the silence.
Yeah, you can cut out the silence while I'm trying to think of how I'm trying to communicate what I'm trying to say without sounding like an apologist.
Nirav cut out a full 12 minutes of silence.
Yeah,
we're listening to this.
I will say one thing I should note, Ian. I don't know if you know this, and we found out later, is that there are definitely a few Tamlin apologists out there. They are a small group, but they are apparently quite loud. But we also haven't had the whole story yet, so we don't know what happens to him in book 3 and like what he, goes through redemption wise or maybe not, in that time.
So Ian, if you do become a Tamlin apologist, I will judge you, but don't worry, you're not alone.
Yeah, I mean,
don't think I will.
Yeah.
I think both of them, both Tamlin and Rysand, are kind of shitty people to Feyre. At least until we get like 70% of the way through the second book. And I feel like...
So this is one thing that, like, I want to point out, which maybe will jive with what you're saying, but, like, I said this when we were talking about the second book going through it, like, I don't feel like the Tamlin character and the Rhysand character that were created in the first book are, like, the same people that are in this second book with us. Like, it does seem like she had an idea to be like, okay, well, Rhysand's going to be the real love interest, but of course we know about the Batman retcon chapter, which we have to talk about. So Ian, the chapter where Rhys, like, explains everything to Feyre. They're at that, like, mountain lodge or whatever, and he, like, sort of retcons the entire first book.
Yeah.
The Spotify, like, AI chapter namer thing named that Batman retcon.
Or retcon Batman.
Retcon Batman, yeah, which unknown reasons.
We're not 100% sure, but technically Rhys is a Batman.
Rhys is a Batman.
We kind of just left it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was the reason. Oh, also, I just saw I'm sorry, this is kind of semi-related. I saw an update. I don't use Apple Podcasts, but I did see, I don't know where I read it, but Apple Podcasts just had an update that is going to be doing AI chapter titles in Apple Podcasts as well.
Amazing.
So now we can compare Apple Podcast AI chapter titles with Spotify's AI chapter titles if we feel like it. We have really that exciting as an option to compare those.
I'm looking at the one for our last episode now. We do have one that's discussing Feyre's high fae transformation and Twilight.
That's par for the course.
Yeah,
is that Spotify or is that Apple Podcast?
That's Spotify. Yeah, we can take a look later though. Addressing listener corrections.
We don't have that. Can you imagine if we did have that as a feature where every week, at the end of the episode, we dedicate 2 full minutes to listener corrections?
They actually, on the Easy Allies podcast, they did used to do that. They had like listener corrections segment for like a minute or whatever.
A lot of gaming podcasts used to do that. I think the Kind of Funny guys used to do that for a bit too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I don't listen to Kind of Funny anymore, but back when I did.
Yeah, it's been a minute. Anyway, so yeah, I think that the I don't know, I just felt like the first book seemed to be its own sort of like self-contained thing, and if not for the little like stinger at the end where like Rhysand like looks at Feyre and he's like, "Ah," then it flies away. Like I genuinely wouldn't believe that she had ever planned on writing a second book. But of course, like, that's there, and I don't know if you know this, actually, we haven't maybe talked about this, but according to Sarah J. Maas, she actually did write the first 2 books in full before she even, like, published the first book. I don't know how far apart they were or anything, but I do find that interesting just because, like, the second book almost seems to be, like, a different, like, writer taking on the idea, like, what can I do when going forward with these characters? Which is why I think in retrospect, we decided that the first book was ghostwritten and that Sarah has done the second and third books herself.
I mean, so a lot of what we're saying is also stuff we've said before, but I guess new information to Ian. But Ian, from your point of view, after reading books 1 and 2, I do want to hear, I don't want to forget about talking about you thinking that Rhys is shitty to Feyre for most of the book. I don't want to forget about that. I will circle back, but while it's on my mind about the books, after reading the first book and the second book back to back, how do you feel like writing style, writing quality, like pacing, any of that stuff? How do you feel like it compares book to book? Because we thought there was such a dramatic shift from books 1 to book 2, as Nirav said, so much so that like it almost felt like a different writer. Like if she had said she wrote the first book and then returned to write the second book 10 years later after some time and some maturity in writing, I'd be like, that makes sense. But reading them back to back, Ian, like, how did they feel to you?
I definitely agree that there seemed to be like some pretty big shifts. I would have assumed that the first book got released and she got feedback before she wrote the second book. Because it did seem like, at least to me, some of the things that are like, okay, this is a little weird. The way she chose to write this in the first book were different in the second book. The big one that comes to mind is, this is slightly different, but like glimmer is almost never used to describe magic in the second book, whereas I feel like it was overly used in the first book.
Glimmer's the disguise thing, huh?
Yeah, but it
mist.
feels more vague in the first book. Like, yeah, it's like any sort of changing of how something is perceived. I feel like they describe like Tamlin and Rysand both having glimmers on themselves, whereas in the second book it's rarely used.
That's a
One
good
thing
point.
I noticed
they use it a
overall
lot
is
less.
that the first book seems to have been written where she didn't really want to create a rigid system of rules for how magic works, and magic is just magic. And then I think by the time that she got to the second book with all of this like geopolitics happening and everything, she's like, I need a harder system of rules on how my magic works to make things make more sense. That's just kind of the impression
Talk to
I got.
Brandon Sanderson, who Brandon Sanderson creates an entire elaborate magic system before even writing the first book.
Yeah, he does it for fun. He does one every day.
Yep.
There's an amazing subreddit called World Building Circle Jerk. I recommend to everybody, where it's just like, how does everybody like my new magic system? And it's like the weather system or something.
That's amazing.
It's very good.
I will say I really agree that it did feel like it was different characters in the second book. Like, they were the same name, same like role, but like it was new people that were being represented for Tamlin and Rysand. I will say, when you mentioned that, it really clicked for me.
I honestly think that maybe after finishing the first book, she just had a completely different idea. Because I mean, even self-admitted, Sarah wrote that first book as a like personal for herself reimagining of Beauty and the Beast, which she has talked about openly. Like, and then I think after that decided, okay, I want to build out this universe and like make it have its own story. And I guess that was the way that she decided to go forward with it. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I also, one thing we commented on a lot was like, even the prose feels kind of different. Like, it feels a lot neater in the second book. Like, the actual line-to-line writing seems to have like a better grasp of like more descriptive vocabulary and stuff like that. And that one thing that we had said a lot like with the first book was like, oh, I think she wrote that book like a long time ago, and then wrote like maybe her like Throne of Glass books, the other series she did, and came back. And I don't really know how much of that is true or not or whatever versus when she wrote them, but I do like the second book a lot because it actually was a really, for me as somebody, I read a lot of like just regular old like, I don't know, fantasy novels. Like I dip into the Brando Sando here and there, which Lindsay, by the way, ran into the room the other day and she's like, Nirav, did you know that fantasy guy is a Mormon? And I was like, yeah, I guess, yeah. She's like, no, he's like a super Mormon. Brando Sando, he's a Mormon guy.
Brandon Sanderson, he is? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's like he's a practicing Mormon. Like, he's very serious about it.
Mm-hmm.
Did not know that.
A lot of the fantasy people are.
That doesn't seem to jive with anything he's written, but whatever.
No, it does not. I can't even like imagine that. Okay,
but no, like she even like was seeing this like interview where he's like talking about like how hardcore he is about being Mormon and everything. I was like, all right. Anyway, so and of course we know about Stephanie Meyer in Twilight with her fucking Mormon agenda. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I guess I was kind of trailing away and got distracted. But
I'm thinking about the different characters between book 1 and book 2. the more we talk about it, there's a part of me that's like, should I just reread book 1? But I'm not gonna do that.
But I'm not gonna do that.
But like hearing you guys talk about it a little bit, I am like, I don't know if I fully agree with the different characters thing, but I think that might just be me like altering my own memory of the first book. Like the second, like I read the second book and then it has like retroactively made me rethink the first book and be like, yeah, that makes sense. Like thinking about Tamlin's actions in the second book and then applying that to how he acted in the first book. Mm-hmm. Granted, in the first book, there were some red flags that we picked out about him being controlling. So like that stuff was still there. And then Reese is the hard one. Reese is like, oh, he's a total asshole in the whole first book. But then like when you get the whole retcon Batman chapter, which recontextualizes everything from the first book, it's hard not to be like, okay, I guess I okay, that makes sense under. Like,
I think where we landed on it was like, this is a big old reach, but I can suspend my disbelief enough to continue the story.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Like.
I don't know. It is really
a big
hard.
It is a big ask, and there's a few things that like. I know even Lindsay got on my case about like, well, what did you think about this? That wasn't a retcon. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't want to rehash. We don't need to say everything we did. But yeah, Ian, what Patrick said earlier, what specific things like in the first half of this second book that Reese was doing were vibing to you as like bad or like, you know, him treating Feyre poorly? I'm interested to hear about that.
Yes, so I was about to go back to that as well. I think it's just sort of talking about, I couldn't step out of the way he was characterized and the things he did in the first book. And
that's fair.
Like the abuse, whatever, retconned it, however it was retconned, the abuse he put her through on his own in the first book. And so it really colored my impression of him in the second book. And even like, because obviously in the first book, he's even doing things that are quote unquote nice to her, but very manipulatively and very like, being an asshole about it. And so it definitely colored even like as we start to see him being nicer to her in the second book. Maybe it wasn't the whole first half of the book, but I really feel like they never addressed his treatment of her in the first book in a satisfactory way. They obviously did the whole in the cabin up on the mountain where he's like, I actually loved you the whole time. But I didn't feel like there was ever a moment where the characters acknowledged the fact that he was very abusive towards her under the mountain.
So you think it was explained, like his behavior and his actions were explained in the book, but you don't think the characters themselves like gave enough confirmation or enough, like they didn't address everything enough like in character. Like you don't think Pharaoh was like, hey, this dancing thing was fucked up.
You know, one thing, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like, do we ever hear from like more or anything like that about like what is she like? Does she know everything that transpired under the mountain? How does she feel about how that was all handled or anything?
I don't think so. Well, because we know that Cass and Azrael weren't under the mountain, so I don't. Right, they obviously didn't witness that stuff, so I don't even know. And then so their only way of knowing what happened is if Reese told them or if Feyre told them, I guess.
Right.
I don't know if that happened or not.
I pointed this out too at the end of the second book, and like one thing I couldn't get over was there is one specific instant in the first book where Reese has Feyre alone in the dungeon downstairs, and he says something to the effect of, if I wanted to have my way with you right now, I could, and you wouldn't be able to stop me, but I won't because I'm a nice guy. And I was like, that I couldn't. I was like, that. There was no like, that was not performative for anybody, was it?
Yeah,
like,
he says like, what he says is like, I'm a good guy for only making you dance sexy. I think that's what he said.
Yeah,
Like,
something to that effect.
I could
yeah.
have made you done more, but I didn't.
Yeah, I think you've got it. Yeah, and that really bothered me to the point like I was like, I'm gonna have to ignore that happened and just understand that that we're doing a new thing now. And this is great tie-in here because we saw last week Wicked for Good, which I had not seen either of the Wicked movies before the last like 2 months. And Lindsay's a huge fan, but I just seen them.
I have not seen For Good yet. Alexa's seen it twice.
Wow.
Work stuff, and I haven't seen it a single time.
Well, the conceit, this shouldn't spoil anything, but the conceit of the movie, of course, is that like we don't know the story, and the Wicked Witch was portrayed to be evil while she was actually cool the whole time. And I was like, at the end of the second movie when we were walking out of the theater, I looked at Lindsay and I was like, can you explain why she was biking around in a tornado laughing maniacally at like in The Wizard of Oz? It's like, no. That part doesn't really make sense anymore.
I don't think the Wicked is supposed to be a direct one for one beat for beat prequel.
Apparently it does work as a prequel to the book The Wizard of Oz, but the movie also took a lot of liberties from that novel, and it doesn't really work anymore because of how the movie plays out. But that's just what I've heard. But I was like, I can't square like this character riding a bicycle around in a hurricane laughing maniacally as this girl is like flying around about to die. Because it just, but anyway, that just reminded me of like, there's like one sticking point, but I'm going to have to just get over it. Anyway.
That's fair.
So I do want to hear what you thought about the other characters, because we do get to kind of meet the rest of our buddies here. So Cassian, Azriel, Moore, Amryn, basically the Night Court. So what did you think of these characters? How did they leave an impression on you? Which ones did you like the most or the least?
I'd say overall I liked them. Yeah, I like them all pretty well. I thought they were good characters, interesting characters. I like the idea of the found family and the different traumas that bonded them together and allowed them to like forge this new bond and this new court that was different than anything else that was in the land or like in the world, I guess. I thought the like dynamics between most of them were really good. The whole relationship between Cass, Azrael, and Moore was a little confusing.
I think we also said that because we were confused about their romantic past and like who was interested in who, just because it got a little bit confusing there. But we straightened it out because it was Azrael who she had slept with originally, right? No, it was Cassian.
Cassian.
Yeah. Okay, see, now I'm even confused. Okay, so that was what had happened there, and then somebody mentioned something about like, oh, she thinks that was a one-time thing, but like I don't know if he feels that way. But then obviously we have this thing going back and forth with them, and then there's also I've actually completely confused myself. So Cassian and Moore have like a thing going on where they keep going like glancing at each other across the table.
No, Moore.
That's Azrael.
Azrael and Moore. Cassian and Moore have never had they had a hookup one time.
That was okay. That was what I was confused about.
Yeah, Moore basically used that as a way of getting out of her arranged marriage.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But Cassian and Moore never had anything after that. And Farrah asks Reese about that, like, hey, do they have everything? And Reese is like, no. So yeah, Cassian and Moore have nothing, as far as we know.
But then in their relationship, or like the way their relationship is described in the book, does seem like there's something more to it. And then Feyre asks Moore about her and Azriel, and she says like absolutely not. But at the same time, we have the whole book. That's towards the end of the book before they go to the king's court. But then like everything before that is this whole will they, won't they between the two of them. So I just found
Between
it a little...
Cassian and Moore?
No, Azriel and Moore.
Oh, Azriel and Moore. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was I think there was just a lot of like history that we had to get introduced to really fast, and so some of it got jumbled up. But yeah, I liked. How did you like Amryn? Did you think she was gonna Hulk out?
The leading question.
I thought she was.
Yeah, we kept talking
cool.
about, oh man, she's about to Hulk out, like she's gonna just transform into some sort of big demon and like rip a town apart.
Yeah, I am still waiting for that to happen.
That's a book 3 thing, I think. To me, that always felt like a book 3 thing.
I could have seen it happening during the invasion when all the people come to invade.
Yeah, the like the human queens. Yeah, that sucked. By the way, like were you surprised by that? The human queens like turning and selling them out and everything, because that shocked me like a lot. I did not expect that.
Yeah, that did surprise me. It also took me a while to realize the person that was impaled at the beginning of that was the young queen, the lion. Okay, queen.
So that was I don't know, Patrick. If you remember that? Like, I didn't know that until we like were talking about it on the show, because I also like somehow missed that from.
I think book. Either Joe or I definitely knew that. Like I immediately clocked that. So I'm not sure if I was the one who pointed that out.
Yeah, it might be.
But it wasn't. I don't think it was explicitly said.
Yeah, but
I mean, I think it was. I think it was.
I don't know.
I can't remember what the description was, but it was said like it's like the Red Queen, whatever not the Red Queen. I don't remember what her descriptor was, but like
it was like the golden hair.
Her. Yeah, and it made sense too, because just before that, Pharaoh was like, "We're gonna be BFFs," and it's like, oh,
yeah,
okay, this is not gonna. It's one of those like, it's like in those dramatic movies or whatever, where it's like, "Oh, you didn't say goodbye," like, "Oh no, I'll just catch you next time," and like they'll say some line as they're leaving. You're like, "Oh, that person's about to die," right? Like it was like that sort of thing where it's like, "Oh, we're gonna be BFFs," and like as soon as she was impaled on the spike, I'm like, that makes sense. Like Pharaoh's not allowed to have nice things. I didn't miss. Yeah, I don't know.
So I know you said you were actually more of a fan of Feyre in the first book. Do you think did that continue for you in the second book, as she kind of like is learning her avatar powers and like, you know, kind of gaining more independence and stuff?
Yeah, maybe I'm just easily influenced, because, like, obviously she's the main character. We're supposed to like her, for the most part. I still enjoyed her story. I still, enjoyed most of the stuff she did. I enjoyed, like, her inner struggle, her, like, slow start to heal throughout the book. Again, I still kind of find the whole now she's high fae and has all these powers to be a little like not conceited, but like I didn't really love how she was transformed into high fae in the first book, and I'm not sure how I feel entirely about her having all the magical powers, the Avatar state in this book.
Yeah.
What do you not what's not jiving with it?
I mean, I guess it's sort of like we talked about in the first book, how I was like, oh, it doesn't feel like she's like the prophesied, the child of prophecy sort of character. But now it sort of does, because she's the only one who can interact with the cauldron.
She's like the chosen one now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can see that. That definitely is like a trope that is hardcore going in this book. Like, and I think will continue in the next one. But like, she's very much like now she's the only one who can stop them.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, but that's just like that's anything, right? Like I don't understand.
I think it's well, no, I think that's just because Ian had in the first book discussion talked about how he liked Feyre because she didn't seem like she was some sort of prophesized chosen one. Like she was thrown into this and was like struggling with her situation the whole time, and was like kept trying to like find her footing. And like in this book, it's like I guess I can kind of see what you mean though. Like she's sort of has all these like abilities and stuff, but I would argue that I think that she does like put in the work. She's not like turned on. She's not like toggled God mode or anything.
Yeah.
So she does put in the work, like training during this second book to like earn the I guess the ability to have these powers in the first place, if that makes sense.
But also she's trained with Cassian to just be a good fighter in general. Like
yeah. That's
I don't
all
think
happening
it's
during this book.
necessarily the fact that she has the powers. But I would say she does a lot of training for like fire and air and water stuff. And then when Lucian shows up in the woods, she immediately is able to transform herself into something else, which she has both not trained and actively avoided trying to do.
what do you mean? Which part? What does she do?
Doesn't she turn herself into like a water wolf or something? Like
No, she turns herself into like I forget what the bat creatures are, the bat fairies are, but she turns herself into like gives herself the appearance of one.
Grows wings,
bat wings
basically.
and talons.
Yeah, she grows bat wings out of her back. I think I kind of just struck that as kind of like a spur of the moment, like your adrenaline's pumping, and suddenly she did something that she didn't know she could do.
Yeah,
I think
it's
she
a
was
fine
like,
line between something like that and something like having all these powers and not having to, or not having to train, but like just having all this power and being like the chosen one who is able to use all this stuff. I wouldn't say that it completely goes into the realm where it's like Mary Sued or like super chosen one. I just felt like it was a shift from the way the first book felt, where it seemed like she was only on the back foot, to a slightly different tone with this one, that while I still enjoyed her as a character and still really enjoyed the story, it just felt it was a shift I wasn't as happy with.
But I think as a whole, like, the entire, quote, good guy team is still, like, majorly disadvantaged compared to, like...
Yeah, compared to Hybern.
Like, the King of Hybern has, like, the cauldron that created all of everything and is, like, the god tool for making everything. And they can just use it to make or unmake people as they want. Like, I think they're still disadvantaged. Even though she has these powers now, she still, like, isn't necessarily the master of them, and she's still, like, I don't know, like, they're still disadvantaged as a whole.
Yeah, and I think this is one thing you want in, like, your superhero stories, too, is that, like, when your character gets their superpowers, like, you don't want to have them immediately beating every bad guy, you know? You want to have some instances where maybe their powers don't work the way they want them to, like, or they get overconfident and they make a mistake or whatever. Which I don't know if I remember, and I'm trying to think of the events of this whole second book, but I don't really feel like Feyre made, like, any sort of, like, fatal mistakes or anything during this second book that, like, caused these events to happen.
She didn't really have an opportunity to really go ham with her powers until the events at blanking on the city name. Valeris, yeah. She didn't really have an opportunity to go ham with her powers until then. And the first glimpse we see of that is when Lucian shows up in the woods and she's able to teleport away. And that is, but after she's been, like, trying for a long time to try and, like, teleport. Like, she hasn't managed to do it. And she finally does it there again. It's another thing where, like, she manages to teleport. What's it called? Phase? No.
What is it called?
Winnowing, yeah. So I think that was only, like, her second time really winnowing there, because she still hasn't mastered it. And it's only, like, similar to the first time she winnowed. It happens when she's, like, her adrenaline's pumping and like she's been basically like a cornered creature or whatever.
Yeah. I did have another thought on this, which is that, like, because this is, as we've been told, like, a 3-part story, like, the third book is going to sort of finish this story that's being told. This second book is basically just, like, the second act of the story. And so, like, when you think of it that way, it's like introduction to all the characters and people is the first act. Like, the second act is, like, here's the real conflict. We're learning how to use our abilities. We're getting ready to fight. And then, like, the third act is, of course, like, the fight, you know?
Yeah.
So, like, I think when you think of it in overall, and maybe we'll talk about this, I think, after we finish the third book and come back to it. But I think maybe that might make more sense when we look at it through that lens. Like, to have her, like, this is the book where she's training, and then, like, at the end, she starts to get a hold of her powers. And then, like, you know, maybe in the next book, even when she is going ham, maybe it's not going to be enough to, like, just... you know, take out dozens of soldiers at once, you know, like, I just don't think it's going to turn
I mean,
out
she
that
kind of
way.
does that, like, I mean, I guess not dozens, but she, even in the Battle of Valaris, she goes pretty nuts.
She definitely does some damage, but it's not like, this, I guess this is what I was trying to say, it's not like
it's not
the actual
Dynasty
Avatar
Warriors.
state. It's not Aang turning into the Ocean Spirit and, like, destroying the entire Fire Nation army.
Yeah.
Like,
and I do
you know,
appreciate the fact that after all this, they get to the cauldron and they fail. I feel like, because they could have done it where they stop the cauldron, but then the threat is still present. Because they even say, if we destroy the cauldron, the king still has armies and he's still going to march. I like the fact that at the end of the book, it ends with them failing.
Yeah, we talked about this. Like, this is a real, like, Empire Strikes Back kind of, like, ending of, like, all is lost, the bad guys have won, like, heroes are, like, running with their tails between their legs, like, how are they going to regroup? And, of course, like, this book ends with, like, Feyre having to return to the Spring Court with Tamlin to try to spare the rest of her friends and everything. And so, you really, like, are like, okay, like, your main character is, like, walking into the lion's den, and, you know, is she going to be successful in getting anything done? And, like, the real shocker, I think, like, I will say this, like, me and Patrick and Joe, like, literally none of us had any idea that Nesta and Elaine were going to get turned into fairies, and especially that they were going to show up there at the King's Court.
Yeah.
Well, I actually did get spoiled about that.
I
got spoiled.
What the fuck?
We talked about this in that episode. Like, that was like,
yeah.
We all had
you knew that they would become,
we all had one big spoiler. Yours was the...
Mine was that, okay, yeah, so, yeah, I guess I can tell you now, Ian, like, I think when I was, like, putting episode 3 up of this, which is, like, you know, a few chapters into the first book, because we were listening to the audiobook, I didn't know how to spell Feyre's name, so I tried to Google it, which was a mistake, because the first thing on Google, when you Google her name, says Feyre is the High Lady of the Night Court. So for the entire first book and second book, like, I knew that was going to happen.
Damn.
Pretty big spoiler. And then for me, the spoiler that I got, similarly, like, pretty early on in the first book, when, like, I think it was just after Nesta, she had gotten to the fairy world, and I'm like, we're never going to see Nesta.
Yeah, me and Joe were like, we're never going to see those two again.
And I said the same thing. I'm like, we're never seeing them again.
You did. You were good about covering it up.
And then, like, shortly after that, I happened to see photos on, like, Discord. I'm not even going to explain why, but I saw photos of, or, like, not photos, but, like, fan art
Glossy
of Nesta
JPEGs.
and Elaine, and they had pointy ears. I was like, all right, well, they can become fairies at some point, I guess. I don't know when that's going to happen, but...
Damn.
But at least after book 2, all of our spoilers that we knew were gone, so we went into book 3 with, like, knowing nothing. But yeah, I mean, still, I wasn't expecting that to happen at the end. I wasn't expecting it to happen when it did or how it did. So it was still, like, jarring when it happened and very, very shocking.
Yeah, I think that we had... I don't know if you felt the same way, Ian, that, like, Nesta and Elaine were not going to play, like, a big part in this story once you went into book 2. Like... but of course they do earlier because you see them, you know, interacting with them to, like, meet with the human queens and everything.
Yeah.
But I don't know. How do you feel about those two characters?
I think I feel the same way as a lot of the other characters feel about them. That, like,
yeah,
sure, Feyre might think they actually have love in their hearts, but they still sort of let her go out into the woods every day to hunt for food and did nothing to help. So I don't think they're
kind
great.
of. Yeah, like I think that they did that for two different reasons, and I think that we never really came around on Nesta. Like, she was continued kind of being terrible, and not that she deserved what happened to her, obviously, but like,
We'll see if the third book how that plays out.
Yeah,
I'm still
I don't
really
know.
curious to see how they're gonna give Nesta any kind of redemption arc.
The thing is, Elaine also
they
like
will, but-
is in a very different way like culpable, because hers was more just like she seems like somebody who just has given up on like ever, doing anything. I don't know. She seems very like I agree though, and about your thing about them never helping her hunt and everything. And I feel like the book almost wants you to forget that a little, but like
I don't think so, because they bring it up like Cassian, when Cassian
Rysand.
first meets Nesta, he like lays into them about it.
Well then, and also their dad, like we fucking hate that dude, and like
He sucks.
He's not even a real character at this point.
He's not even in the second book.
No.
He's just
He's
not in the second book at
no.
all.
But like, man, there was really just like, I don't know, her. I have not gotten like super excited about her family continuing to be around, and we'll see what happens with them in the third book. But it's really, yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, I feel like Nesta and Elaine could have been used as like two different endpoints for Feyre, either the subservient wife or the Nesta, because that seems
or the Nesta, yeah.
And I feel like that could have been a good way to use those characters, and I don't think they were.
I can see what you mean there, and yeah, I don't think that they were really intended to be that way. Now that I look back on it, but. I mean, you saw, like, there was a whole thing where Elaine was, like, supposed to get married to that, like, human lord, or, I don't think it was a lord, whatever, the human guy.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, she's still technically supposed to get married to him. Like, as far as we know, they're engaged.
They are still engaged. And so, like, he's, of course, like, a fairy hater, like, just from what we've heard about him, like, if he found out what she had become, he would probably kill her.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, I think that we didn't really get a chance to see that contrast you're talking about play out, really, like seeing like Elaine become like a subservient wife or anything. Although that, now that you mention that would have been possibly interesting to see something like that like play out first, in contrast to Feyre. But also I've noticed something terrible, which is that it's an hour in and we again forgot to ask you about the sex scenes.
Dude, I've been waiting to say that, actually. I was waiting for you to stop talking, and I was gonna ask about the sex scenes.
We had I think two pretty intense ones in this book, which is still not like a lot considering what we thought going into this series.
It was still more than the first book. But yeah, Ian, what are your thoughts on the sex scenes and how they have improved or changed from the first book?
I mean, they're a little more graphic and a little more detailed and involved. I don't know if I remember the first one. I mean, there's the whole post-mating bond between Feyre and Rysand, over a couple chapters. But I don't remember before.
Wasn't there one with Tamlin at the beginning?
No.
Potentially.
I thought there was like a short one at the beginning.
Maybe.
Yeah, I still feel a little let down in terms of the quality and quantity of smut in these books.
Yeah,
I
I don't know if this is true of all these other kind of books, because like we haven't read like the Throne of Glass or like Fourth Wing or whatever these other ones are. Like I don't know if this is the typical amount of like sex in these
I think
things,
it's
which
less
is not a lot.
for if we're specifically talking about like the fantasy smut genre. Like I guess it depends. If you're doing fantasy romance as a whole, yeah, there's probably like tamer stuff than this and more intense stuff than this. But if we're talking about like fantasy smut, as a lot of like women are like, oh yeah, I read fantasy smut or whatever, I think this is on the lower side.
This is I would not group this in with like like literotica, like paperback novels that like, you know, a lot of like, you know, frankly are targeted more towards like middle-aged women, like, you know, those kinds of novels. Like this really feels like very mild in comparison to those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I feel like it was a bait and switch, and I was promised a lot more smut, or it was like not marketed, because I didn't really absorb any of the marketing for these books, but I feel like word of mouth always made these seem a lot more provocative than they actually are, and I'm not sure if that was intentional.
I don't think it was intentional. I think that was just like, I think the like buzz around these books got too inflated, I get too exaggerated. Because if you actually ask someone about these books, like, hey, how much sex is actually in these books, anyone who's read the books will tell you.
They're always like, oh, not really.
Not that much.
Yeah.
Like, it's not as smutty as you might be led to believe. But I think it's just these books have become like the face of the fantasy smut genre, because so many people have read them and people talk about them as the quote like fairy porn book.
This feels more like an entryway to the idea of like fantasy smut, and like this is your gateway novel, and then after that you can go to the more intense stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's your starter anime.
But I don't think anyone. I have no idea what Fourth Wing is like. On that in that regard.
I have heard that Fourth Wing is like has way more sex in it and is like a lot more graphic, but that's just what I've heard. That's the reason why people keep pestering us about reading it, because they're like, no, we want you to like read the like actual gritty sex scenes.
I mean, the sex scene in the cabin was pretty good. I'm trying to remember. I
agree.
think Reese and Feyre had 2 sex scenes in the book. Did they not?
Well, they have the cabin, and then they have like when they go back to the townhouse, and then they have like the night before they invade the king's court.
Right, yeah.
Oh, they also have the one before Reese is taken, where they're like in the town, and Reese is like, I don't want to have sex with her
fingers her
first time
for
here.
a while.
Yeah,
for
so
hours.
That. Yeah, so I think there's 3. I guess they have 3 sex scenes. Or I guess 2.5 if you don't count the
2.5.
Because there's no penetration in the first one. I'm not sure if that counts or not.
That's just like third
sex
base,
scenes.
second base, or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. I am kind of wondering if the third book is going to have more of this, even past like the few chapters we've read or anything, or if it's going to remain kind of the same pacing of these things, just because like
we've been told they escalate every book, with the 5th book having the most.
Like
we don't know if we're going to get to the 5th book on this podcast.
Maybe that's just Sarah responding to like the readers being like, hey, we want more of this, and like putting it in, you know. I don't know, but I will say, like, I don't know if you agree, like this it feels almost like this book suddenly sort of turned into like Game of Thrones, and then like the romance stuff got like thrown to the background a little bit, which I actually was fine with and probably contributed to me liking it more. But I have seen a few people say that they like didn't like this second book as much. Not a lot, but a few people have said that because it becomes a lot more like action packed and a lot less like romance and less drama going on.
I guess.
know
Yeah, I mean, there's still the
if I'd agree with that. I mean, it's one giant will they, won't they?
Yeah.
Which is your favorite trope, right?
Yeah. But that and only one bed.
Is that
Which
actually
we get both of those. We get both of those, so...
Wait, hold on, pause. Is that actually one of your favorite tropes, or did we talk about this before? Only one
I don't
bed.
know if I have favorite tropes.
Did we tell you about only one bed, or were you just actually excited about it without us influencing
I'm
you?
aware of only one bed outside the context of these books. I'm not sure if
but we didn't feed that to you, because that was something we've talked about.
That's wild. Yeah, that's
great.
one of like Alexa's favorite tropes, or at least one of her favorite, like that she likes to, like whenever it happens, she'll just chant only one bed, only one bed, and she'll chant it.
Yeah.
So it became almost a mantra of like part of that when that happened in the podcast. So you mentioning it unprompted is amazing.
That's
but
it's one of the funnier, in my opinion, romantasy or romance tropes.
Yes, agreed. It's great.
I will say this discussion has brought me to the thing I liked least about this book.
Oh.
And it's like halfway through the book, Sarah starts using the term females like an incel
Okay, we
on
talked
4chan.
about this. Yes. Okay, we talked about this a lot, and it also made me
so uncomfortable.
However, the way that I kind of felt better after we discussed this as a group too, because like I think I brought it up at our roundtable discussion even, but like I don't like that the way that it makes me think of like these like 4chan incel people, but at the same time, what she's trying to do is that the word men is specifically only for humans. The word women is only for humans. The word male fae and female fae are like two different things, and like the word man and woman do not describe those people. So in order to group in all females, the only word in her world that works for that is females or males. Which I know, like, again, kind of made me feel uncomfortable, because I'm always looking for that on the internet when people, like, especially when someone says, like, men and then later they say females or something, you can, like, clock it immediately what kind of person this is. But, like, she's really consistent about calling them, like, males and females, and I think, like, that is the reason is because, like, you know, just, like, if you were saying it for, like, in the world of Lord of the Rings, and you were, like, They always describe, like, men as just being human men. You know?
Yep.
And then, like, the dwarves are, like, male dwarves. Like, they don't have... Or they have their own dwarven word for that in Lord of the Rings, you know what I mean? So, like...
So that's what she's missing. She's missing an actual specific word for, like, she should be, like,
I agree.
Elfay and Lafay.
Lafay.
Okay.
Elfeo.
Lafay.
But no, dude, I 100% agree. That did make me uncomfortable, and it is something I, like, even brought up with Lindsay, and she was like, oh, yeah, no, I think this is the reason and everything, so... but yeah,
it's pretty funny that you were getting us all ramped up to like, all right, this is like, all right, what is Ian's big gripe with this book? What's he gonna lay on us? And you said that, and I was like, oh, this is not. I was expecting
that's
like
not controversial enough.
Some huge plot thing, or I don't know.
It really like made me stop the first time I like really started noticing how often it came up.
Yeah,
it's funny. I didn't even notice it. I don't
Dude,
think
you gotta train yourself. You gotta train yourself to like everywhere you look when you read stuff online. Like, you gotta look for that shit because that is like.
But I think the context of reading it in a book written by a woman versus reading
Oh,
comments on the internet is so different that I wasn't even thinking of it.
You can't drop your guard even for a second, dude.
There was one scene where she's talking about Moore and Amryn, and they're like walking down the road, and she's like something about like walking with females, and I just like stopped in my track. It was weird. I know this is more of a romantasy or romance thing, but also the overuse of mates in the second half of the book was a little annoying.
Oh yeah, I think Joe and Nirav both kind of had a problem with that too.
Yeah,
right?
like we both said kind of the same thing, and like again, I think for me, I just have to like be like, all right, it doesn't mean the same thing that it means in our world. This is a fantasy world. Words have different meanings. I'll get over it.
Yeah. Also,
I guess in that regard,
and...
I'm a passenger princess in that regard, because like whatever language is typically used, I'm kind of just like, all right, this is whatever in this fantasy world, this is what they use. There are probably instances where I'm not like that, but I didn't really think about it. I was like, oh, this is like in the context of this world, this is what mate means. Cool.
Oh, for sure. Like it totally is, but like there's also like I guess I'm also sometimes on alert because when you hear people talk about like that, like they're usually like talking about like women in terms of like breeding objects, which is like
or they're
really
Australian.
Rough. Or they're Australian.
Or they're also,
one of those
which is
things.
even worse.
It's even worse.
Wow.
Wait a minute. Is this Ian's thing? Ian doesn't like Australians.
Oh, okay.
Is this
He doesn't
the protected
like. That's
group
great.
That
I'm glad we finally attacked some.
we finally found someone that Ian can attack. So Australians.
Yeah, and I mean,
feel-
I even get like mate in like a kink context. It's just it made me cringe a lot.
Yeah, I can roll with that.
Lucian, I also feel like the whole like your bonded mate or like soulmate or whatever the thing was.
Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about like Lucian and Elaine thing. Yeah, so
Yeah,
that
was
to me was just like
rough.
I think I literally rolled my eyes when that happened.
I think we
When
all
was
did.
reading.
We're all kind of like, all right.
Okay, I see what you're doing, Sarah. You have your ideas about where this is going, and it will go there. I understand.
Yeah, I mean, if it gives Lucian a chance to, like, redeem himself, that would be
Okay.
cool.
But
Here's the thing: is that we and I said this too. I think I said at the beginning of this third book as well. Again, like if Lucian is only being good to get with Elaine, that doesn't make him a good person. That's not actual redemption.
no.
Yes.
And I think I want to say Farah even maybe she mentions that in the third. I don't know. I don't want to get ahead of her. I think the book addresses that. Maybe that's a minor book 3 spoiler. I'm forgetting now.
Yeah.
But
I think in the end of the second book, she mentions using that fact against them. Against Tamlin and Lucian.
oh yeah, Farah. That's
Yeah.
what it is. Farah, like you can tell Farah's gonna like toy with them or something like that.
Yeah, she's gonna dangle that like a carrot, because like I mean this is not even a spoiler. Like Lucian is going to know that like if Feyre wants to make sure that he never sees Elaine again, she could make that happen very easily.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I think. Sorry. Oh my God, my voice is.
My
starting to
robot
get out.
vacuum just started, and I don't know if you can hear it on the recording or not. So I'm gonna go pause it real quick.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, so one thing, and I didn't prepare you for this at all because I forgot, frankly. I should have. But one thing we did at our roundtable discussion after we, like, for book 2 was we went, like, through, like, casting ideas for some of these characters for, like, a movie or TV show. Not to, like, put you too much on the spot, but if you have any ideas on, like, who you think would be good to play specific characters or anything, you could be good to throw them out.
I am
So one
terrible
thing,
at this.
Yeah, one thing I did actually was I did it as if it was like an animated series. So I did like a voice cast.
Are we
which I was
talking
very
about the
happy.
casting?
Yeah, I was just seeing if he had any ideas off the top of his head about like who would be playing this.
So, I, like, am incapable of visualizing things in my head.
Oh no.
I just have an inner monologue. I can't really picture things in my head. So I don't have a great grasp of, like, the physical aspects of these characters, even that, like, I've come up with. So yeah, I have no clue who I would cast as anyone.
Name one actor. Let's do that.
Oh, I don't know if we should. This is gonna end up taking a long time. I don't want to put Ian on the spot with this.
I'm curious to see or hear some of y'all's ideas.
How well do you know famous people?
I mean, not personally. Besides Sarah, I'm not on the
I'm
first
sorry,
name
I don't mean.
basis
I mean,
with
like
anyone.
how. I guess the better question is, how familiar are you with famous people?
Yeah, I mean, if you started listing like famous actors, I would recognize them.
Okay, I don't know if you like so what you Patrick you did like a regular was it Alexa who did her time travel casting?
Alexa did like a half time travel casting, which meaning of that is, she chose a bunch of actors like pretend like okay, for instance, with Reese, she chose Henry Cavill.
Mm-hmm.
But pretending
But,
Henry
like,
Cavill
15 years
isn't like
ago.
because he's like in his 50s or something like that, right? So if Henry
Yeah.
Cavill in his 50s were married to like if he was playing opposite of a girl in her 20s, that'd be weird as fuck. So like pretending like okay, well Henry Cavill, 20 years ago or whatever, is the made up version of that. I actually briefly found it. I had sent the images in the Discord, so I can actually send that to you. Let me send this link real quick.
Yeah, I
This
did a
is-
voice cast for mine, so like you may not be as familiar with them, and I don't need to go through all of them again. But one thing I was very adamant about was, as the voice of the Cauldron, I wanted Lee Byung-hun, who is the frontman in Squid Game and the Demon King in K-pop Demon Hunters. If you're familiar
That's
with
pretty
him.
good.
Okay.
Alexa and I had both very like punchable people for Tamlin. Like Alexa had Austin Butler for Tamlin, who I thought was very good because he's an extremely like punchable person. Alexa had like Sophie Turner for Nesta, which is pretty good.
I could buy that one actually.
Yeah.
I had Michael B. Jordan as Cassian. She had Jason Momoa for Cassian.
I like Diego Luna as Azriel.
Yeah, that was one of Alexa's picks.
Oh,
Pretty
that's good
good.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, we both had Greta Lee for Amryn because we both like thought she was
Yeah.
awesome.
Ian, I don't know. Are you familiar with the God of War games?
Yeah.
So I picked for my voice cast for Christopher Judge, who was Kratos, to be Cassian.
Yeah. I don't know how interesting it is for our
Okay.
listeners to hear us
And then I
re-say
did
the
meet
names
Christopher
of things.
Judge and tell him to do that, and he said, I'll look into it.
I don't know how
that
entertaining
did
it is for
happen.
people to listen to us rehash our castings that we
No,
did.
no, no.
two
I was
episodes
just
ago.
kind of wanting to see if Ian had any fresh ideas is all. But
But I do want to hear before the end of the episode, Ian, if you have any predictions for book 3.
yeah. Okay.
I imagine, or I'm sort of imagining that Feyre is going to destroy the Spring Court, potentially cut her way back to the Night Court. Like, burn...
Destroy
salt the
literally,
earth.
and cut back literally, or like, what do you think?
I think at a certain point, she's gonna get the opportunity to fight back, and the manor will probably be destroyed. Would be my guess, as like a symbolic resolution to her at one point being locked in. She'll like destroy the whole place.
I like that.
And then, since she can't winnow straight back to the Night Court, she'll probably have to traverse her way to some extent. And I expect there'll be issues with, like, Lucian's parents and potentially with the Summer Court. Maybe there will be an opportunity for that to be resolved. On her way back to the Night Court, be reunited with the gang, and then they'll deal with the king and all that stuff. Potentially he would have invaded by then? I'm not sure.
Okay.
Right,
I'm
sweet.
trying not to react to things because we've already seen some things happen or not happen.
read some stuff.
Yeah.
So, one thing specifically, how do you think things are going to play out with this alliance of Tamlin and the King of Hybern? Do you think Tamlin's going to stick with him to the end, or like is he going to do a turn and betray the king? And I don't know.
I think he'll probably have some sort of redemption and like join the rest of the courts against the king. But I don't know if him and Feyre will ever have a reconciliation.
Yeah, I think we had talked about this in that, like, obviously it is completely out of the question that he and Feyre have any sort of romantic relationship again. That's not going to happen. But we do, we were like, is there a possibility for him to like actually achieve some sort of like forgiveness from her and like, earn it and stuff like that, which I think would be cool. I really don't know if that's, if there's a satisfying way to do that. I mean, we'll see.
I'm concerned about how she's gonna play being back in love with him at the beginning of the book, and how that's gonna go personally, or that's one of my current concerns.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm trying to ask questions in like a non-leading way is all. So, what do you... Okay, so one thing we noted at the end of the second book is that Lucian didn't play a big part in this book. Like, and obviously, like, this thing with Elaine at the end kind of set him up to do... Oh, hang on, we've got Yatito on the mic.
Can you say hi? Can you say hi?
Hi.
Hi.
Hey, we got a hi.
He's waving and doing some very frantic waving right now and saying hi.
Yes. Yatito, how did you enjoy Disneyland?
He can't hear you. James, did you enjoy Disneyland?
He said it...
I don't know what you...
I think he said it was nice I had wings.
Oh, I heard orange.
You want to see the Christmas lights. Okay.
Oh, I heard enchilada time.
Alright, I'm going to mute myself.
All right. So I was going to say just simply as I can, what do you think Lucian's role is going to be in this third book? Like, alongside Feyre and this rebellion and the Night Court and all this stuff.
I am hoping there'll be a moment where he decides to join Feyre and the Night Court against the king, even though Tamlin hasn't gotten to that point yet. He will leave Tamlin and join them and start working on his redemption. And, like, because the main issue with him in the second book is that he wouldn't go against Tamlin.
Like, he feels like, and I mean, it's true, but he also does feel strongly he owes his life and existence to Tamlin. Yes. And, like, while that may be true, like, you know, we all talked about, like, Tamlin has really abused that friendship, and maybe to a point where he doesn't even realize how much he's abusing that, you know, I don't think
Tamlin's aware of him doing anything, any of this stupid. That's one thing that we said, is that, like, Tamlin is an absolute idiot, but, like, and he's doing a lot of bad stuff, but I don't think he knows what he's doing is bad. Like, he doesn't. He has no, like, awareness of, like, no self-awareness.
Yeah, awareness is the right word, I think. Yeah, like, of how what he's doing is affecting the people around him. He's, like, very singularly minded, like you said earlier. Like,
I think it doesn't help that what he's doing is how it's normally done.
Yeah,
like, he's not doing anything that's not how any other normal High Lord would act.
Yeah, and that's something that we kind of touched on but didn't talk about a lot, is that, like, the other High Lords, like, excluding Rhys for a second, the other High Lords carry themselves likely pretty much the same way Tamlin does. Like,
or worse.
As far, and, like, with the exception, of course, being the Summer Court guy, what was his name? Bob. But but that being because he was a young guy who
Grand Moff Tarquin Duck.
Grand Moff Tarquin Duck. He grew up without, like, being influenced.
Ian just did a look, because he just, like, we said that name and he looked to the side like, the fuck did I miss? Is what that I
but I like what I like is that he only looked like that for a second, and then I saw the acceptance roll over him, and then he, like, let me continue talking. God, what was I saying? Oh, yeah, but Tarquin we see is, like, an exception to that, because he, again, like, didn't really grow up with his dad. He, like, is kind of been thrown into this and is sort of figuring out how to be, like, a king on his own, and is, in turn, being a little bit, I think, more fair and kind about how he's ruling. But, like, if we were to look at the other 4 or 5, whatever, like, kings out there in the other kingdoms, like, I feel strongly that they probably conduct themselves really closely to how Tamlin does, like, even how we saw him act during the tithe and everything. Like, I think that is, for the sole reason that is how it's always been done. And, like, that's why I so strongly think that it's important to have Rhys there, because he also inherited from his father how it's always been done, and he rejected those values. And, like, Tamlin has the opportunity to do the same thing and reject those values from his dad, and hopefully he does, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess let's go ahead and wrap up. Thank you guys for joining us. Actually, we have to do something. This is going to come out on December 26th, so today's the day after Christmas, I guess, when you're hearing this, if you listen to it right away. Happy Boxing Day to our Canadian fans. I'm sorry we attacked you in an earlier episode.
Joe, that was Joe. That's honestly the reason we got rid of Joe. He was because he was attacking Canadians specifically.
Actually, it's funny that we attacked Australians in this one, because that's our second largest demographic.
Hold on. This is Ian. I'm throwing Ian under the bus right here. Like,
that's fair.
At least I showed Canadians the proper deference.
Okay.
But apparently not Australians, man.
Yeah.
No.
Fuck Australians.
Next time we'll have a new host, actually, after
chat,
Ian attacked Australians.
Yeah, so, but anyway, this will be going up on December 26th, so I guess Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everybody. And we will be back, and the first episode in January is going to be continuing on from where we stopped in Book 3. So
we'll probably have a very brief recap for Ian to give his thoughts of the first 17 chapters, and then we'll just continue on for the next chunk.
Continue plowing on through. So yeah, I think we did a pretty good job of catch up here. I think this has been interesting to hear some of these thoughts and everything, because, like, I will say that Sorry, Ellie's looking at me like she wants to fight. Ian, I don't know if Ellie's my cat. It's not like another person that's in the room with me.
I figured,
but
or hoped.
Yeah, she wants to play, and she's angry that I've been sitting in this chair talking to the black screen she hates. Yeah, I think it's been cool to hear some different, because I will say one thing is that, like, even though we have definitely brought different opinions, like, sometimes on things that happen in chapters, like, I think a lot of times it's easy to just, like, gas each other up and say the same thing at each other over and over again. So it is good to hear some, like, different thoughts from someone who, like, kind of came into these books removed from that. Yeah, so I guess we will get out of your hair, and until our next episode, I guess you could stay in your truck and keep it moving. Is that what we say?
Disgusting. After the respect that we showed Keep on Trucking last episode, you would do Keep on Trucking dirty like that again, Nirav. I can't.
A lot of truckers have experience being dirty.
It's engagement bait.
How we have fallen.
Yeah, I'm actually.
It is engagement rage
thank you for
bait.
picking that up. Yeah, this is rage bait. But of course, my love for rage bait is superseded only by my love for the phrase "keep on trucking" and support.
Keep on trucking.
Keep on trucking.
Bye.
Tick, 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 tick on the wall. Maybe you could have it all. Get down on your knees and pray. Maybe she will let you stay good enough if you play